This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We are here at Lighthouse Studios in Bali, and I have a very special guest for you as usual. But today especially, we got Lauren White. She is an addictions counselor, an NLP practitioner, and a motivational speaker. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. It feels actually incredible to be in Bali and doing a podcast and talking about addiction, which is something I'm passionate about.
I love it. We just met.
We literally just met, but it's like we're literally two people.
We literally are two people, but also that we have totally get each other, like two peas in a pod. So much history that we both share, and so much insight. Just meeting you, 30 minutes ago, just jamming and eating both of our cookies. I ordered two cookies.
He just had his own two cookies.
I ordered two cookies, and she thought one was for her, and I'm like, no.
Does he have a food addiction?
Yeah, definitely. And we're just talking about that addiction, and talking about how there's so many more types of addiction than we care to look at, or that are much more socially acceptable addictions. I'd love for you to give us the definition of addiction, something I know very well, but let's hear about the full scope of it.
Yeah. So obviously addiction, they do believe that it's a brain disease. They believe it's the way that our brain chemistry changes as an activity that we do. But addiction within itself, the definition of addiction is when you cannot, and no willpower alone will stop you from doing X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And the taboo of addiction is that it is generally just something like drugs and alcohol, which is something that a lot of people will see on TV, which has been, prevalent growing up with a lot of people when it comes to rehabs and, hard drugs and pretty much, the taboo of it. But it's actually, it can be anything that changes the way you feel. But it has a reward system attached to it, which is something that makes someone feel good. And it becomes a habit, and it becomes a pattern. And when it becomes a pattern and a habit, it almost, from your conscious awareness, it becomes your subconscious over time. But there's two types of addiction, and there's substance use and there's non-substance use. And substance use are things like drugs and alcohol, which obviously within itself has components in it that does make it addiction, does make it addictive. But then there's non-substances that people don't really understand and think, well, that's not an addiction. And these are things that actually aren't things like drugs and alcohol, but it's things like food and relationships and my phone. It can be a person, and it's pretty much when you do something and then attached to it, it makes you feel good, and you do it more and more and more over time, and it becomes something that's your identity, and it becomes something that you cannot stop. But then you realize once you cannot stop that it's something that has taken over your life.
Yeah.
And it's a repetitive behavior.
I mean, eventually you run out of room to tattoo, but I get it.
Oh.
But yeah, no, definitely. What I loved about that is that there's so much more things that we're addicted to that are stemmed from, like we were talking before, was the ego and the addiction to validation. And I'm really excited to talk about that today because I feel like it's a super juicy topic, and we go into it really deep. Instagram, validation, what we do, work's a big one, like our identity, the addiction to identity.
Yeah, I relate.
Tell me about that.
So obviously I talk about my own story. I got sober at 18. I started drinking when I was 11. And I don't know if people have heard about this before, but they talk about addiction being a progressive illness. And at the age of 11, when I picked up alcohol.
You're drinking at 11?
I was drinking at 11.
I was watching Power Rangers.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be fun.
Yeah, you were watching Power Rangers and I was drinking.
This is great.
Yeah, and it was.
Not
it was
great,
learned, No, but that's the thing. It was learned behavior, and it was what I was seeing around me, and it wasn't necessarily a problem at the time.
Yeah.
And I love to share this. Like, it was a solution to my problem.
Yeah.
And actually at the beginning, and this is what I talk to a lot of people when it comes to addiction, it worked for me.
Yeah.
For a period of time, it was my best friend and I loved it. And it would give me exactly what I need, which was filling a void, giving me like the self-esteem that I needed, the temporary self-esteem that I needed, giving me the way to not feel my feelings and avoid life. And also it gave me a crutch until it stopped working. And from the ages of 11 to the ages of 18, it became progressively worse, but it manifested in different ways. And how I like to talk about it was that deep down, I did suffer with low self-esteem and low self-worth. And I did feel that if I did have high self-esteem and high self-worth, I wouldn't have touched those things. And this is why I see the link between self-esteem and self-worth and substance use and addiction, because as I've got sober, I've learned that actually, because I've grown within my self-worth and my self-esteem, and that's why we talk about, you know, anything in our lives, I'm able to put boundaries in, and I'm able to not people please, and I'm able to say no. And that's the thing, that girl that was 11 years old, what did she have? She had peer pressure. She wanted to fit in. She wanted to be liked. And that's very common nowadays. And that's when we talk about the things that are non-substance, which obviously drink and drugs are, you know, something that obviously people do talk about when it comes to addiction. But how many people want to be on Instagram right now? Why? Because society tells you to be. How many people want to get Botox? Because society tells you to be. No one really knows what they want to do in their life. No one really knows what their opinion is because everyone else is doing the same.
Yeah.
And that's when you lose your identity. And that's something I'm very passionate about.
I love that. And it's a very like potent time to talk about this. I was doing some charity work at one of the schools last year here in Bali, and we were asking the kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it usually be like, you know, doctor and firefighter and da-da-da. And like 4 to 5 kids like in a row were like YouTuber.
Oh my God.
I was like, what the fuck? These like 9, 10-year-old Balinese kids, like, yeah, YouTuber. I want to be a YouTuber. And you're like, okay, you can see society's putting a lot of weight on somebody with that kind of clout and that we're addicted to this clout. But the identity aspect, it's such a big deal. In the West, especially, you know, like, what do you do? You know, where are you from? That kind of thing. But what do you do is like the first question you get asked, right?
All the time.
So it's a big part of our identity. Yeah. So being addicted to having, you know, status is, I think it's just part of our genealogy, like a human biology. We'd want a higher place in the tribe. You know, you'd want to be the chief of the tribe or close to the chief of the tribe. Your survival depends on it. So I get it. We're like wired this way.
100%. I completely agree. And we were speaking about this before when we were sitting down, you having 2 cookies.
Yeah.
And we were just saying about like how like it all, like attachments and external things. And I mean, I think you relate this, but growing up, all I ever saw myself as was my external. And, you know, I modeled at a young age. I thought the only way I could be happy is by being skinny. Because I saw in the newspapers that Kate Moss was skinny. Got that, and I got validation from people. People were like, you look amazing. Unfortunately, that's how it was. And then when I got that validation from people, I was like, wow, I need to stay skinny. Developed an eating disorder, obviously, because I thought that was the only way I was going to be liked. And I think it's the same when it comes to status and work. You know, we get a job, and then we grow within that job, and everyone looks at you and they're like, oh my God, you've got the most incredible life. But they don't actually look at you. They look at your external. And then your external becomes you. And then you're like, who am I? Because actually your external is you, but it's not really you. Like, and that's when I became happier as a person, when I started to work on my internal. What makes me happy? What makes me feel good? What gives me validation for myself? Because what I was doing growing up with my addictions was I was doing everything for everyone else, trying to be everyone that everyone else wanted me to be without being myself. And then it led me some dark places, because actually what I wasn't doing, and this is something that I'm talking about next week, is I wasn't living my authentic truth. I was being inauthentic, because the more inauthentic I was being, the more I was addicted to X, Y, and Z. Because I knew deep down that wasn't me. So I was running away. I'm running away. And I see it a lot, especially with my clients. And I ask my clients, you know, how does it feel to actually ask yourself what you want to be? And they say to me, I'm scared. What are you scared about? I'm scared to not be accepted. And I'm scared that if I leave my partner that I don't love, who am I? I'm scared that if I leave my job and I, move half around the world, which is what I want to do, then who am I? And that's when we go back to identity. And that's why when I moved to Bali, right? So I like to talk about the story, was that I knew deep down that living back in London and doing what I was doing was actually affecting me a lot. And I think when I started to become authentic as a person, and I say it to my clients as well, and you put boundaries in and you tell yourself that actually, no, I deserve to do what I want to do. That's when you actually start to actually conquer your addictions, because you're stepping into your truth. And we spoke about purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that's what made you.
Oh, it was huge for me, because I went through the exact same thing where if I left the life of, being a drug dealer with a fancy Mercedes and all this shit, like, who was I going to be? Who would I be without this, status and cash and blah, blah, blah. And first it was scary because, it was too hot to wear my Dolce & Gabbana sweaters out here, It's like,
I relate. I get it. We still love bougie life.
Oh yeah, I was bougie and I had all this fancy shit. And I was like, well, that doesn't really fit in Ubud, Bali, hippie land, green juice and yoga. So who am I going to be with all this stuff? And first it was scary. And then I realized, oh shit, it's actually massive freedom. I have choice. I take responsibility. Oh shit, I got to take responsibility. It's scary. And then, oh shit, I get to take responsibility. Like I can do something about this. And then I can pick who I want to be. And I had to rebuild who I was and what my validation chain was, and who I was going to be, what I was going to be known for, and what I wanted to do in my life. It was a total reassortment, of everything. And once I picked the right things, I became much more happy with myself and started building things I could be proud of myself for. It made me crave drugs less, because I was super addicted to drugs. It was just like, I had an unlimited supply. It's really easy to go down that slippery slope. If you just you can just instantly make yourself feel full of dopamine right away. It's like kind of hard not to do it, because after a while, it's just the way that you operate. But I get that there were so many other addictions around that, that actually the drugs were the easiest thing to kick, because there's the addiction to money was the first one, the status, the power, the freedom, who money made me. And I really saw that actually I was more addicted to what this made me feel, like my self-worth. And that was the biggest thing. And the drugs were just a byproduct. Once I was like, no, I'm going to pick to be a new human. That was the easiest time ever getting clean for me, because I knew I was done with it and I wanted to be somebody else, and I wanted to go and be somebody that would do good in this world and really commit to that, like really be someone that's going to be known for doing good things and actually do good things and be loved for the right reasons. And I was like committing to that, like, no, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be this guy. And it was the easiest time ever getting clean. And since then, I've really seen every time that I've strayed away from the path, because it is difficult. It's not like you don't get back addicted to like validation or back addicted to work projects. Burnout, burnout is I struggle with this all the time. I'm on the verge of burnout right now, because we just launched 2 businesses within a business, and like I'm exhausted. I've been working my ass off the last few months, but there's something about like the addiction of like, shit, it's working. We're getting good reviews. People like it. You should try our chai. It's awesome. It's like, it's great. So there's this balance that I have to keep, playing with. Yeah. But when I'm doing it for the right reasons, like it's in a wholesome, maybe centered and like better version of myself. Like I'm being validated for the right reasons. I really want to talk to you about this. Like, how do we ride the edge there, where it's like, I want to be a go-getter. Yeah. I want to impact the world. Yep. I want to be somebody who does good in this world and be known for it. Yeah. I'm a little bit, shallow. There is that part of me that wants to be known for being a good dude, and I want people to like me.
Nothing wrong with that.
You know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Where's the healthy edge for this?
Yeah. So this is literally, I was just thinking in the back of my mind, like the step to understanding your addictions is awareness, right? So a lot of people, like we spoke about the conscious and the subconscious, a lot of people are in their subconscious. You literally wake up, you go from A to B. You don't even realize what you're doing. You don't even know what feelings you're feeling. And that's why breathwork meditation is very, very important. It's about tapping into our conscious awareness and being aware of what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with wanting fame. There's nothing wrong with wanting success. There's nothing wrong with wanting money. But it's about having the awareness and understanding of when it becomes too much. And understanding that you need to have balance in life, and balance is key. And, for me, I relate. I also had burnout. I've had burnout again. You know, I went back into rehab at 21 for a work addiction. I had a burnout last year, and I always talk about the fact that, you know, and when we spoke about addictions and we spoke about it, it's genetic. It's also environmental. It's also a trauma response. And, you know, with the whole addiction thing, you know, just because you've battled drugs and alcohol, which I battled, and bulimia and food and whatever, doesn't mean that I don't have that addictive personality. I do.
Oh yeah.
And it can catch me in so many ways, but I have the awareness.
Yeah.
So the one thing I always say is that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but look after yourself.
Yeah.
And when it's time to relax and it's time to chill, take that time to relax and time to chill. And you know in your right mind that when there's a burnout and you're aware of it, do what you need to do to try and avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do now, is I listen to my body when it's too much.
That's a good thing. I think sometimes I'll try to tough it out, you know, and just be like, tough it out until your body's like,
see,
bro,
but that's your mindset.
Totally.
And that's your self-limiting belief.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I talk about, is that, you know, I do think in the male world, it is very prevalent in guys. Just deal with it.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Soldier on. And
I think that's actually a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that's where you need to change your belief system and go, no, I need to stop that.
Yeah.
And I need to realize that I need to rest. And I have a client at the moment. I never disclose clients, but yeah, he always has burnout. And his thing is, I'm a man. I need to deal with it. I'm the breadwinner. I'm looking after my kids. But the only way to truly be successful is by taking a step back.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. Like I was telling you, I want to take a week off, or maybe 10 days off at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And I had to now I was supposed to do it on the 19th. So it's in a week.
He's basically stopping. And
then we had the general manager quit with like 4 days notice. So I just hired somebody new, and I got to make sure that they're set up to take things on, new operations manager. So I was like, oh, maybe it's not a good thing to leave after they've been hired on for a week, you know? And it's like, maybe wait another week. But you know what I mean? There's this like,
it's excuses.
It's an excuse for sure, but also like being responsible. It's a difficult game.
Oh, it's hard.
You know,
it's very hard.
But my adrenals are fucked right now. I can feel it. I'm so addicted to pushing right now that I'm like, how did you get here again? You know, I would go through holistic ways and I'd be really chill on it for a while. And then now I'm to the point where I'm taking a fucked up amount of stimulants, you know, like caffeine is a hectic amount of caffeine, pre-workouts, coffees, matchas, chai, kratom, but like all day, you know, and it's like, it's not, I get it. I was in a sprint mode. And I've done this many times where I've been in a sprint mode and I had a few launches to take care of. And I was like, no, you have an extreme workload to deal with right now. So you got to do it until you get to a certain stage and then chill. And then I'll get to that certain stage and then there's a new thing to do. And this is where I feel that addiction to work and accomplishment, and addiction to wanting to build and grow and do things. But my friends that I've been talking to like recently, like, how you doing? I'm like, fuck, I'm exhausted. I'm just super busy right now. They're like, you've been saying you're super busy right now for like 6 years. Yeah. Like that's just you. That's not a right now. That's you. And I was like, okay, you're right. And I don't want that to be my forever thing, but I also got love for the game. Like, I love what I do. I do things that I enjoy doing. Like I love creating and I love working with amazing people, doing things that are like fun and doing my own, like, it doesn't feel like work. I just like what I do. But there's definitely something I'm really wanting to look at now of, can you accomplish more without pushing yourself this fucking hard, and take care of your health a bit more and slow down.
100%.
Because I can feel it. I'm at that burnout stage right now, and I can feel it with the way that my body's feeling. I feel like I'm definitely gaining weight. We're doing so many tastings for this fucking menu. Oh my God. I had to eat a fucking butter chicken samosa yesterday.
Sounds
it was
amazing.
Delicious.
Fair, yeah.
It was insane.
And what happens when you own a restaurant?
Every day he's like, try this new amazing thing. Every day, literally, you got to try this thing like you've never tried it before. And I haven't ever tried it before. And it's insanely good. And he's like, no, you're going to get a little fat right now. You got to try all the menu. I'm like,
you have to.
Fuck.
Well, like, can I ask you a question?
Please. Sorry, I rambled for a little while.
No, I get it. No, and I relate to it a lot. And it's funny, but like, so I'm going to ask you a question. Are you living at the moment? Or are you existing?
I would say I definitely am living in some ways. So like without a doubt, I'm enjoying my life in some ways that I'm really like when we had the chai bar launch and we had an incredible launch party and so many of my close friends came to donate their time to play music, like really amazing musicians. Like these aren't people that they do stadiums and stuff. Like they're not, you know, just like cafe people. And they were like, I'll come and play for an hour in your cafe. Like fucking donated their time because we also donating a bunch of money for the kids for this school that we're raising funding for. And seeing the funding at the school work and seeing the kids get the help that they deserve. And we're trying to hire them like an in-house nurses of kids with autism and Down syndrome and seeing them, you know, they built a restaurant there. The kids that graduate get to learn to work in the restaurant. So they have these jobs. So seeing that system work and seeing the kids in 7 years I've been supporting this school to see the kids graduate and now have a job where they would never have any chance to work anywhere in Indonesia. And now they run a restaurant. Like seeing that, I like gives me really like I get happy from that. Really that makes my heart swell. I feel like a proud uncle or father or some shit. And it makes me emotional and I'm like, okay, that's me living. Like I can feel this is working. It's worth it.
But did you have time to reflect?
That's what I mean is like, I would take the time to reflect because I'm consciously know if I don't reflect and I don't be like, enjoy this moment, motherfucker, you know, I'll just be existing. And so the chai bar launch, there was a moment where there's so many people dancing on tables and chairs and like, it was lit and people were all drunk off chai. They're high on chai. Like it was a sober party and people were like ecstatic. It
sounds like something I want to go to.
It was fucking fun. It was the funnest party I've ever thrown, and I've thrown some ragers, like, you know. But it was more like, let's all do Molly. This is like, no, like, people are drinking chai and donating to charity.
Probably better to high off chai.
It was super fun.
Yeah,
and I just remember sitting back and enjoying it and being like, yeah, and like savor this, like fucking savor it. Because if you don't, you're just running around making sure the staff are doing this or this one's doing that or da 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 da. It's like no, sit for a second and really savor it. And then when I was leaving to go get a cinnamon bun after at the full day of work, I'm like, you enjoy a cinnamon bun. And I was driving and I was just like, like, good job. You know, and I had to do it because,
of course,
you know,
because then you're on to the next one.
Exactly.
And the reason why I share that is like, I see so many CEOs and business people on the outside. They've got everything on the outside, but are they actually taking that time out to themselves to reflect?
It's uncommon.
And it's very uncommon.
Those were the 2 times I remember doing it ever. like I don't do this enough.
But we spoke about the addiction for more.
Yeah.
And it's a next project.
Always.
But then your life lasts before you and you're like, am I actually really processing what's going on here?
Yeah.
Am I actually really taking the time in to check in with myself? And the thing is as well, it's like you run multiple businesses, right? And you have multiple people that you work for, that work for you, and multiple people's opinions and measurements and ideas that aren't your own.
I'm enmeshed as fuck.
But it's like, where are you in this? And this is why I share, like, when it comes to like burnout, because you're so enmeshed in multiple different projects with multiple different people, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you relate to this, but my binge eating disorder and not my drugs and alcohol, because was because I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With 100 million people. I wanted everyone to be my best friend. Yeah. I wanted to do 15 million things a day. I didn't have any time to myself. And what do? I was just binging on food.
Yeah.
To compensate, because I didn't know how to sit with my feelings, because I was running away from my feelings. And like I said, bloody amazing what you're doing, and it's incredible. And the addiction can be, and we spoke about this and what we shared at the beginning was like, channel the addiction in the most amazing way, and you're the most successful person in the world. But you also need time for yourself.
I feel like I practiced that a lot before when I was deeper in my yoga practice, and then I had a bad motorcycle accident and was on morphine for 2 years and just kicked that again. Yeah. So that was this year.
I know what morphine's like.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
So I was just like, needed to, I still need it, but I didn't want to take it anymore. I was just like, that's enough. That I could feel it dulling my meditation practice, like everything. I could just feel it making me dull, and I didn't want to be dull. Yeah. So I'll just deal with the pain. So I'm metal in a lot of my body, and just like, it's going to be painful. But if I practice yoga every day, it's not that bad. and I just need to get my ass up and do the thing. But I've been overworking myself with the businesses that I haven't been practicing. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in more pain. Okay, just
So it's a cycle.
yeah. And that's why I'm like, okay, I'm taking some time off at the end of this month
Good
just
for
to
you.
reset.
Yeah.
Because I can see, okay, I let it build up for too long and I sprinted enough that it's like, that's enough. That's enough.
100%.
You need to take the time off. And I could see, just looking back at it, was like, well, what's driving you for this, you know? And we were talking earlier that most of the most successful people in the world are addicted somehow, some way, right?
100%.
Like best music we've ever heard. Most of them are addicts, you know, all like Steve Jobs. And I heard Elon Musk is addicted to ketamine,
Yep.
like a hectic amount of ketamine.
Heard this. Yep. He's a lizard. He's not real. He's not real.
I mean, he might be a lizard person, but also like definitely he does ketamine. Like he mentioned it on some podcast. And you're like,
we were saying about, you know, like I became happier because I moved to Bali and I made my life a little bit simpler, right? And I was actually in an ice bath the other week, and as human beings, we're actually not meant to complicate things. There's not meant to be a million water bottles. There's not meant to be a lot of option. When we're complicated and when we have so much option, we're actually very overwhelmed and our nervous system is heightened, right? When I was in rehab, I learned one simple phrase: easy does it. When I make my life complicated, I'm in fight or flight mode. When I simplify things and make it easy, all I do is wake up, go to work, go home, go to bed, put my head in the pillow. I'm not stressed. Yeah. When I'm stressed and overworked and overwhelmed, what am I going to do? I'm going to compensate and I'm going to turn things to change where I feel. That's why in the Western world, everyone's on addictions. Yeah. Everyone's doing something to actually manage their stress load. So yeah, if you're Elon Musk, obviously you're going to have a ketamine addiction. Yeah. It's just how it is.
I feel that.
And that's why obviously when you get sober, I'm not saying don't do what you're doing, but have tools and practices in place that's going to make you simplify things.
Couldn't agree
stems
more.
from boundaries.
That's a big one because I had that thrown in my face this week. It was like, I'm not creating enough boundaries around how many people depend on me, like are always like asking for, I'm enmeshed as fuck. Like really, literally, I have so many people that need me for input and
you're
approvals
still so
and
successful
okays.
And you're probably amazing what you do. Doesn't matter. But
I think I would do better. You know, I think I would do better if I was able to manage this a bit better. And that's what the thing that's my like, okay, I'm at that stage in the game where it's like, you would probably be more successful if you sharpened this, if you're able to take some more space alone, if you're able to prioritize certain things and have certain people in place just a bit sharpened. And I'm like, okay, I'm committing to that now, where it's kind of like that. There's some book that I read a while ago, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that's where I feel like I'm at now. It's like, cool, I got to a certain level, but the actions it took me to get to this were like muscling it. You know what I mean? Like fucking brute force, like just grinding and hard work. And yeah, I'm like, no. There's now a holistic way where 100%. I want to get to the next stage of my life. It's like, this is now what I'm like committed to learning. And I had these practices when I was yogi, but I let business take over and I stopped practicing as much. So my new commitment is to get back into my yoga practice, my spiritual practice. Like that's like the new commitment that I have been saying I'm going to do for the last 5 months. But being back in Bali with the business launches and taking these back on, it's my excuse right now.
I relate to it though,
you know,
so much because there's two things I saw in that. The first thing I saw is like the same with addiction, right? We justify. We justify so many times. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do it next year. I was very lucky, and I say hands on blessed. I nipped it in the bud when I was 18.
Great.
I was in university. I was surrounding myself around people that were twice as worse than me. And people were like, you're not even that bad. Yeah. But I could have been bad, right? Yeah. But I meet so many people nowadays, they're like, yeah, that person's doing more than me. That's fine. I'm going to do it next year. They end up 80 years old. Yeah. And they end up looking at their life, not living, existing. And it's the same with you. It's like you justify it. You go, okay, it's fine. I'm going to deal with it next month. And then by the time it gets to however, because we convince ourselves that we aren't that bad. Yeah. And we plod on and we push through and whatever. But really deep down, it's not about ending up rock bottom, in our rock bottom. I didn't want to end up dying. Yeah. So what I did was I stopped early. And this is what I say to a lot of people. If you have a problem, don't convince yourself that you need to get worse. look at that problem, even if it's small or big, because it will get worse over time if you don't do anything about it. And then the other thing I relate to a lot was we forget what got us well in the first place. And, you know, I'm the same. Like, our external becomes more prevalent than our internal. And a lot of the practices that I learned, which is another reason why I went into rehab again at 21, I stopped doing because I just thought it wasn't important. And I thought that success and whatever was more important. And then I realized that actually those things that actually, like yoga and meditation and mindfulness, and for me it was AA and recovery work, I convinced myself that I didn't need it anymore. And then it wasn't even that I was drinking, using drugs. My head came back. My thinking came back. And that's the thing that I share. It's a thinking problem. I have a thinking problem. I convince myself that no one likes me. I convince myself that I'm not good enough. I convince myself a scenario in the future I'm not going to end up, you know, happy. And what do? I can't manage those feelings and those thoughts. So I pick up something to change what I feel. Alcohol and drugs was just a solution to my problem. My problem is me.
I totally get what you mean.
I love that saying. I probably say it in every podcast. So.
Which one's that? The problem is me?
Problem is me.
Oh, for sure. The more responsibility we can take over what it is, it's always us. No matter what is around you, it's us. How did you define somebody? I mean, you mentioned that you have an addictive personality. I get it. I do too. I do. If I like something, I really like it. And before I'd be like, I'm very Aries. It's just an Aries thing. It's like, no, no, don't justify it. You fucking, if you like something, you really like it.
Yeah.
I'm intense.
You're all or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your markers of having an addictive personality?
It's pretty much when you have like an obsessive compulsive thought process towards something, and you cannot stop. Some people do have it, some people don't. And that's why they do say it's a brain disease. Obviously, environmental factors do come in play with that. You know, if I was brought up in a family that nurtured me growing up and gave me everything I wanted, giving me the love that I wanted growing up, and gave me self-esteem and self-worth and love, and I didn't have trauma, because they say it's a trauma response, then I'd feel loved, and conditional love and unconditional love. But if you grew up in a toxic environment, around people that don't make you feel good, that, you know, you kind of feel uneasy and it affects your self-esteem, you're more likely gonna pick up drugs and alcohol. But that doesn't mean it becomes an addiction. It's just when it becomes an obsessive compulsive nature that you have inside you. And that is because the reason why I share this is because I went back and I did a master's in addiction psychology. I went to London South Bank, and I remember sitting there and being like, can you just tell me the bloody answer? Is it hereditary? Is it genetic? Is it environmental? What the hell is it? And they're like, they don't even know what the answer is. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, just tell me. And they said, yeah, it's a brain disease, but there's so many different reasons or whatever. So there's no actual...
When they say brain disease, I think of something way different, you know?
Well, they say that it's a brain disease. That's the literal...
Huh. It's not just a bunch of your habits and patterns compounded onto each other. It becomes a disease?
It is definitely habits and patterns that become repetitive over time, but that doesn't necessarily mean you become addicted to it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because you can break a habit.
Yeah.
It takes 30 days to break a habit.
I mean, they'd argue that you can break an addiction. I mean, anybody can, of course, right?
Over time, yeah.
Over time. Or, I mean, my business partner, Dave, I was telling you about him earlier, Meditation Dave, he's fucking hardcore. Where it's just like, just stop. He's like, that's it. Just stop. It's all just sensations. And you're feeling sensations, and the sensations are within you. So just stop and feel the sensations. Go through the pain it's going to take to have the coffee, caffeine withdrawals, or whatever it is that you need to do. Feel it. Watch them arise and watch them pass away, and you'll be okay. You're like, thanks. Like, so simple. Like, so simple. And you're like, but he's right. And it's more difficult than that. He's like, sure, but it's not more complicated than that. Like,
it's as complicated as you want to make it. And this is where we go back to, you can't make anyone want to get well until they want to get well, right? So like, yeah, you can break an addiction, but you have to want to fucking break it. Sorry, I swear.
That's okay.
You have to want to break it. You have to surrender fully. You have to hit your rock bottom, and you have to do everything in your willpower. You have to let go of control. You have to look at your environmental factors. You have to stop surrounding yourself around the people that are enabling the illness. You have to stop people pleasing. You have to look at your life. You have to start creating new habits in your life. You have to start creating new patterns. You have to become accountable. It takes time. But yeah, that doesn't mean that you don't still have that addictive personality. You do.
Yeah.
But you can limit how much you're doing it, and you can have the awareness to look at it in different areas. That's my understanding in it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because within myself, it comes prevalent a lot in my life.
What helps you? I mean, simplicity you mentioned.
Yeah. So what helps me is slowing down, catching myself as much as I can, slowing down, surrounding myself around good people, being around people that understand my mind. Sharing helps so much. Hey, just to let you know, I'm going through this today. Problem shared is a problem halved. Being accountable to someone, looking at my triggers, really important. For example, when I was struggling with my eating disorder, you know, I had to tell my parents to not have granola in the house because it would always just like trick. The minute I walk into my kitchen, I associate that with granola. And then I associate that with binging because obviously it's associations and triggers.
Yeah.
And I'd have to look at my triggers. For 2 years of my life, I didn't go into a bar because I knew that would trigger me off.
Yeah.
But the more I started to surround myself around good people, have more healthier habits, grow my self-esteem, my self-worth through service, which we spoke about. You know, I started motivational speaking, sharing my story, helping others. It becoming my purpose. And yes, it's become my identity being sober. Yeah. Yes, maybe that's another thing. But I look back and I'm like, I'm so far along self-sabotaging. Why would I ever go there?
Yeah.
Because the person that I was when I was drinking and doing drugs, who hated myself, couldn't look at myself in the mirror, to the person I am now, helping people, changing lives, it's just beyond me.
Night and day.
And that's when we spoke about self-esteem. My self-esteem has gone like that.
Yeah.
So when I have high self-esteem and high self-worth, I'm able to say no to people. I'm able to know what my identity is, be more authentic within myself, and then realize that I don't need to change things, change what I feel. But yeah, I do have days. I've suffered with depression. I get anxious a lot. I feel lonely sometimes. I'm single. I spoke about that the other day, being single at 31. Whatever.
It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big a deal. I know, but like,
come on, it's not too bad at all.
No, I know. But I mean, I come from a family
40s
that's
and
very
you're 30.
traditional. But yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that I still feel these feelings. But what I do is I look at my life and I say to myself, do you think that drugs and alcohol and food is going to make the problem better? Half the time it made it worse. So I just identify with that.
That's good.
And then if I'm struggling, I pick up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy that a lot. And I see what you said with a few things there is just like, and I see it in myself, is that there's things I was addicted to that would make my life worse and not benefit others. And then things that I'm addicted to now that make my life better ultimately and make other people's lives better. I'm like, okay, so there's healthy addictions and I'd rather be addicted to those. And there's triggers that are negative triggers and positive triggers. And I try to consistently positive trigger myself. So like listening to the right music podcast or audiobook or something in the morning, or having my book next to my bed at night so I'm not scrolling and I'm going to read my book, or having my gym stuff set up in the morning so I'm going to go. Like I try to like make it easy for myself to succeed, and then also avoid those negative triggers. So say if it was like sex and relationships, it's like, okay, I won't meet up with people I shouldn't be meeting up with right now. It's like, there's people that
you know in your gut. And
exactly.
That's the thing, you always know in your gut.
It's not a good idea. You know, like there's like, it's not a good idea. I don't
I think you know you're going to relapse before you relapse.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Honestly, half my clients
that
relapse, I'm like, you planned that the week before, didn't you? And they're like, yeah, I planned it.
Of course.
So that's where you talk about relapse prevention, right? And when I talk about relapse prevention, let's take away drugs and alcohol, put it in Instagram, right? If you're telling yourself to not be on Instagram, put practice in place to not be on Instagram.
Yeah.
Maybe delete the app, maybe do things. The only way you can do that is by fully surrendering and actually wanting to do it.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Definitely.
You know, and for years and years and years, I remember I was smoking cigarettes, and for years and years and years, just stop smoking. I didn't want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was ready, that's when I was willing to stop.
Yeah. How do you get ready? If you want to change your life, but maybe subconsciously or consciously you just don't really want to, but you want to. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I should, like I should, but I'm not. Like I'll speak even just personally for me is like I want to start practicing yoga again and meditating an hour a day, but I'm just not doing it. And I can make the time, but I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm noticing I'm spending too much time scrolling. The new house I just got has a nice TV. I'm like, Netflix. I downloaded Netflix again, or I got the app. I'm like, what am I doing? You know, like I could see myself, but I get it because I'm overworked and I want to blow off more steam.
100% is blowing off steam.
But if I did more yoga and meditated more, I wouldn't need to blow. I would be more centered, and I could carry all of this, or I could be more effective at carrying this. So then I wouldn't be wanting to blow off steam. And at the end of a long day, I'm like, I just want to watch some TV and not think.
Yeah.
And I never was like that, but this last 5-6 months, it's been a bit more prevalent in me. I can see that I've been eating more, and I've been wanting to just check out more because I'm carrying so much decision-making weight. Yeah. And I would be reading and meditating, but I could tell I'm in a slump, and I'm like, I'm in a bit of a rut right now where I've been a bit stressed out, or just weighing so much weighing down on me that I'm like, okay, how do I get out of this rut and get back to this, like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that.
Yeah. I mean, first things first, I always say, like, the 1% change. Like, you don't need to think about doing things 100%. Just focus on the next best thing. Mm-hmm. If you want to change, make a plan for yourself and do it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that's literally getting up and doing 10-minute meditation, not putting too much pressure on it. And then next day doing another 10 minutes, or, doing little steps to get you there. But then what I would always say is just out yourself. Find a friend who you can do it with. Yeah. Keep trying to put your foot forward. But yeah, maybe you need to be in more pain. Maybe you need to be in more pain to actually put yourself in that position.
And what do you mean by in more pain?
As in,
I'm in a lot of pain, okay? I got hit by a truck.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. You're in so much pain.
Yeah.
But you need to psychologically just make that decision, and then just slowly put little action in its place and keep doing it over time. Get a calendar, tick it off every day. That's what I do with my food. Like, it really helps me on my notes. Every day I tick off. And what I like to talk about is radical acceptance. If you make a mistake, if you fail like one day, it's okay. Just get back on it. A lot of people have shame. A lot of people have guilt. A lot of people don't want to face it because of their shame and guilt, because they are scared that they're going to fail, or they're not going to do it, or it's not going to feel good. Just start tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first day. If the day after you don't do it, okay, radical acceptance. Just get back on that high horse. And the more you see yourself doing it in the bigger picture of it, the more you realize that actually it's not about the day, it's about the whole picture, And that's how I like to do it. And I like to say to my clients to do it. It's like, it doesn't matter about the bigger picture. It's just about today. So focus on what needs to be done today, whatever it is.
That one day at a time thing really is
100%.
It really is important. And I feel like, I consciously know all of those things, except I can see that I'm missing something. There's like something that I'm missing in this like equation for me right now.
You're a little bit burnt out. You're a little bit stressed, and you're using things that are going to self-soothe you because it's too much, 100%. And you know that Netflix, whether it's an addiction or not, it's going to self-soothe you because you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it's about rewiring that and going, actually, that doesn't make me feel good, because it doesn't.
No, it's pacification. But then I'm a little bit more tired because I didn't sleep as early as I'd like to.
So that's your cycle.
And then it's like, I'm not getting up as early. I'd usually get up at 5:30.
What's your answer?
It's gonna be to
sleep better.
Sleep better for sure. Like, I need definitely more quality sleep. But I haven't been sleeping good since the accident, and that's been a bit more difficult. Whereas it's like so much melatonin. I was taking sleeping pills and morphine before, and now I quit all of that, and I'm just taking melatonin, but I'm taking like a hectic amount of melatonin to sleep. But
you're in the cycle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it starts with the lack of sleep, the melatonin, then feeling shit for feeling the lack of sleep and the melatonin.
Extra coffee.
And then extra coffee,
Yep.
which is actually feeding the whole thing.
Definitely.
Feeling even more tired,
Yep.
working 10 hours a day, getting so tired that you're doing Netflix. So it starts from actually the first thing, which is actually trying to get more sleep.
Yep.
And prioritizing sleep. So what can you do in your day that's going to help you prioritize sleep? And that's, it's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, just to let you know, I'm the owner of this business. I need to focus on myself. And that's by putting that step into those boundaries. I did this with my client last year, and he actually got promotion at work because he put in boundaries. Because he was like, actually, no, I'm actually going to actually do what I need to do, and whatever it is. And what he wasn't doing was wasn't putting boundaries in.
Nice.
Because he thought that and this is another thing, everything will be okay without you for a period of time. And letting go and focusing on what you need to be doing at this moment in time, and focusing what's going to get you well at this moment in time. And that comes first. What do you do when you're on the plane? You put your mask on before your kids, because without your mask and the plane's going down, you can't look after your kids. So you come first.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely.
what you're not doing.
I feel it.
And
Definitely.
but everyone else is.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing this.
Yeah.
And this is why the world is so stressed and overworked.
Why are we so addicted to this cycle?
Because the cycle, unfortunately, and this is another thing that Brene Brown talks a lot, is shame. And we are so shamed around the feeling of the negativity that we get from the cycle, and it becomes a pattern. So we talk about primary emotions, right? So primary emotions are, I feel sad. Okay, I'm sad. We don't even think that we're sad because no one talks about emotions. We just feel a feeling that we hate. Some people will just identify as depressed, where we're not depressed. I'm sad, so I act on it. And then I act on it and I feel a feeling and emotion. And that feeling and emotion will be like, that thought process would be like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm not happy, whatever. We'd act on it. That action will make us feel even worse about ourselves. So the act will be like picking up drugs, picking up alcohol, picking up food. And what do we feel? We feel the secondary emotion, shame and guilt. And because we feel shame and guilt, when we feel shameful, we want to hide. We don't want anyone to see us. What do? We then go back into that cycle. So it's about really regaining that and really kind of going, how do I get out of that cycle? Is by starting to recreate healthier habits and healthier mindsets, looking at my self-limiting beliefs. What am I telling myself every day? You know, I have clients and I even myself, like I catch myself looking in the mirror, you look ugly. Yeah, that's a self-limiting belief. So if I tell myself I'm ugly, I must be ugly. Write it down. Write down all the negative patterns that you have in your head and change it and rewiring it. It's the way that we think and our positive mindset. What are we reading? What are we listening to? Who are we surrounding ourselves around with? What are we doing in our lives that are making us not feel good about ourselves? And this is another thing that I really like to share, is that like, I was in a job last year that was amazing on the outside, but like, yeah, I was in a superficial world and I was lost and I was unhappy and I didn't know how to get out of that superficial world, because I knew that superficial world, unfortunately, got me followers. It got me likes. It got me attention. It got me, you know, people liking me. But I was so lost. I felt so alone, and it was a trap. And the reason why I share that is because it actually on the outside made me feel fat, made me feel ugly, made me feel not good enough. So it became the cycle. So it's about re-identifying your authentic truth and really sitting down, having time to yourself. And you've done it a million times. I know you have. Time to yourself, asking yourself what you really want out of life. And if it becomes a habit and a pattern that's not healthy, whether or not you're making loads of money, you're doing this, you're doing that, take a step back and ask yourself what you need. And I think for you, it's rest.
Definitely. I could tell. It's definitely, that's why I'm like taking that week off of just rest.
And good for you.
Just gonna
and
rest.
so you should.
Yeah, I could feel it.
And I think you'll feel better about yourself when you do.
Something that that you said that I want you to expand on, because I can see sometimes it can be like, okay, well, how do I identify my authentic truth? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And sometimes in the fluffy world, you're like, yeah, of course. But then like the other side of me is like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Yeah, authentic truth.
Just feel like you should have lit
I
an
think
incense when you said that.
I think in our gut, for me, it's inner child work.
Sure.
Going back to who I was before the societal norms. I think if you go into a room and you surround yourself around people, you're at an event, I think, or just examples, right? You go to a gym class. I think in your gut feeling, I'm just giving examples here. In your gut feeling, you know whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would say try it and do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't do things you don't want to do. And for me, my authentic truth was, stripping back me as my ego, asking myself who I really am as a person. And that was before the ages of 12, right? What actually gave me happiness. I've shared this on podcasts before, but I was a tomboy. And by the age of 14, I was modeling, wearing loads of makeup. I was like a size 8, getting loads of attention from guys, working at Abercrombie and Fitch. I thought I was the coolest person in the world. Worked in clubs for 8 years. And I lost myself. And I became everyone else rather than myself. Because I thought that, just an example, when girls wear loads of makeup or they have loads of Botox, it's like a thing where it's like, it's actually not them, right? And
totally.
You can delete that one. Sorry.
No. Yeah. This is important.
But, yeah. And it's like the more you do it and the more you put it, the more inauthentic you are because it's not actually you. And the more insecure you come because it's not actually you.
Totally.
Same with Facetune on Instagram.
Yeah.
You make yourself skinnier. You make yourself got bigger boobs. You're not actually, you're reaffirming the shame. You're reaffirming the feeling of not actually being accepting of who you are. And I saw this amazing quote the other day was that confidence is not about, I love this one. Confidence is not about what you look like, what car you drive, blah, blah, blah. Confidence is about accepting yourself no matter what. And that's the thing. I stopped wearing makeup. I'm not saying to everyone stop wearing makeup, but I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped wearing loads of high dresses and high heels. I went back to playing football and being a tomboy and playing chess and poetry and whatever I thought that was going to make me a loser. And I accepted myself for it, and it's hard. I wrote a post the other day about being single at 31. And the reason why I shared that is because I have this ongoing thing that I'm scared that I'm never going to find someone. So I'm honest about that. And yet again, redefining my authentic truth, which is actually accepting myself that this is where I am at this moment in time. Another thing, you are where you are at this moment in time, and it's okay. Your journey is your journey. You're not anyone else. You are yourself. And it's just these reminders within my life and within myself that actually, without a partner, without a job, without whatever, the only person I have in this world that's ever going to love myself is me. And that's what I mean by authentic self.
Yeah. I love that. I really appreciate that. And I think...
Single at 30.
Yeah,
I'm only joking.
There's so many.
I just love
people,
to laugh about it.
I think it's a good thing to laugh about, and the post that you put out's a good lead magnet. So it's good.
Well, I had a message from a guy.
There you go.
He did message me, but then he asked for naked photos, and I was like,
"What? Please don't let him be an Indian guy. There's always these Indian dudes that are like, yes, boobs.
Please don't upload this.
Oh man, you were saying we took a photo together. You're looking more Indian than me now.
Oh yeah, people are like, yeah, you don't look English.
Are you just fully English?
Fully English.
You got a tan out here.
I know. It's just wild.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on and spitting some game about addiction. I think things that I've this was a counseling session for me.
I did feel like that.
I'm burnt out. I needed to connect with you. It was important for me because I could feel I'm in that cycle of building, but I'm happy with what I do. I love it, but it's coming at the expense of, how I'm feeling, my health, burnout and that end. But there's some cool shit happening and it's fun and I want to play this game. But I'm eating a lot of sweets and I'm eating a lot of shitty food right now. I'm in that cycle of it. And I could tell because I've been getting lots of pimples and I've been really, this is the worst my skin's been in a long time, where I'm like, fuck man, I'm breaking out because I'm not taking care of myself. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. I've been a bit stressed out. There's some interesting things happening that taking a lot of mental power that were difficult. And then the food. And I was like, fuck, I got to do the 3 podcasts today. I got to film down here in Lighthouse. Maybe I should put makeup on. I never wear makeup. Man,
you look fine. Honestly, you look fine.
That's because I put a lot of makeup on. No, I'm just kidding. There's no makeup. But this is where my head was at.
Yeah,
and I was like, I had to run myself through this process. And I'm like, so the fuck what? You have some pimples on your forehead. Like, so what? It's okay. It's not a big deal. No one's going to give a shit.
Also, the one thing I've learned about pimples is that no one actually, like, what you see of yourself is different to what I see of you. So
yeah. People don't look, I'm obsessing over them. And I know it's like, it's a whole thing.
I mean, I came on my period last week and I felt like I was fat.
Yeah. But
and
no
then
one else.
A week later, and everyone was like, and this is another thing with women. It's like we convince ourselves we're fat, and actually, what we see is actually different to what everyone else sees in us. You know, so
there's an addiction, I think, to image.
100%.
There's an addiction to it, and I think 100%. It's more prevalent now than ever.
100%
is we're addicted to how we want to look compared to how society, emulates. And that's a big deal. And I think it's part of the reason, like, I know I like to be fit and I like to work out, but I also want to look a certain way because I see other guys look a certain way. I'm like, I want to be jacked. It's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. And I definitely relate to that as well.
I think a lot of people listening can. It's a big deal. So I think, from what I gathered out of, our talk was that it's got to be coming from the right place, like coming from me and coming from something that's rooted in wholesome happiness and love for myself.
Yeah.
And it's sustainable. Like, okay, you can do the things, but are you simplifying your life or are you making it more complicated?
100%.
So this extra shit you're adding, is it simple or is it complicated? And I think that could be for a lot of women and that I know, especially in Vancouver, like they can make their lives pretty fucking complicated with the stuff that they do for their image. Like, women's image is fucking complicated.
Yes.
There's stuff I had a salon for a little while in Vancouver, and I learned like all these things that I had no idea about. Like I didn't know what the fuck a balayage was, and I learned all these like, what even is that? And that was like, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's so many things that I was like, what even the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's complicated. That's a lot. But don't get me wrong, I appreciate women that are beautiful and put in the energy for that.
100%.
When they really like put energy into their looks, I appreciate them looking great, but when it's like an excessive, hectic amount.
But it's also when it becomes an insecurity.
Exactly. Then I'm like, what are you compensating for? And it's the same with dudes. When you have like the big juiced out dude or the fancy sports car, and you're like, bro, what's it really about?
Yeah. And this is the two things that I actually learned in rehab was there's self-esteem and then there's other esteem. And self-esteem is what you're doing to esteem yourself on the inside.
Yep.
And then other esteem is, like we said, the external, which is your looks. I love to look good, but also if I look good on the outside and hate myself on the inside, what's the point?
Yeah.
So it's about loving yourself on the inside, accepting yourself on the inside, and then your external emulates. But I also think when you walk into a room and you are your authentic self, you shine bright.
I agree.
More than anything, more than the most beautiful person in the room.
I love that. Self-esteem and other esteem is gold.
Yeah.
I really like that one. And to be able to work on things that, like when it was an inside job and I was doing things that made me feel better about me, I was really insecure and feeling shitty after being like a drug addicted drug dealer. And I was like, man, I fucked up.
But
like,
that's shame.
I felt real shame, really shameful about it. And sure, I did a lot of charity work and still do, where I was trying to like unsell the drugs. I was like really trying to like, okay, I want to do some good in this world. Well, I didn't want my legacy for myself to be that's all I did in life. I wanted to do some shit that I could be proud of. So that was like really, I wanted to make myself proud and make my parents proud and make
100%.
Like I wanted to do it, and it does work because I did feel better about myself because I was doing things to make me feel like a good person.
Yeah.
And I think right now getting back to that with my health, so doing things that make me feel simple and healthy and wholesome, rather than worrying about the weight of all these people I employ right now.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh fuck. So I think that's like where I'm at. It was really timely for us to have this talk because I'm like, it's so funny that whenever I have guests on, it's like often like, oh, I needed to hear that this week. It's like really helpful.
This always happens. Well, the moral of the story is take a step back to go forward. 100%. And you will become more successful by taking a step back.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time.
I feel that.
For myself as well, right?
Fucking rights. I bet you a lot of people listening for that. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on today
You're very welcome.
at a whim's notice and coming out here, and definitely come and play some chess at Karma House. I got a good board. I got a nice marble board. It's really nice. So
let's just like, you know, tell everyone I love chess and my chess name. I'm joking. I don't have a chess name.
Go. Yeah. Are you good?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I used to be in the chess team when I was young.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Wait, I'm not trying to get smoked by Lauren over here. I'm going to play you, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm great. I'm going to get smoked.
You know, Queen's Gambit made it cool anyway. But
that is a great show.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So definitely let's do some chess up there. Guys, how can we find you? What do you got going on? Is there any way people can...
So I'm on Instagram. It's I am Lauren White. My website is www.laurenwhitespeaker.com. I'm doing a talk on a retreat next week in Ubud. I'm going back to London. I'm actually doing like 4 podcast interviews, doing a talk at the House of Parliament, which is really cool. Doing 2 festivals, and then going to be doing a talk for you in August.
Yeah, that's right. We got a client. That's how we met. My client, now friend Ann Winters, she's an Emmy award-winning actress, and had going through a big health journey, going into rehab for an eating disorder, and her coming out. I'm helping her launch a business that's going to be helping people find a space to have mental health and mental health resources, and kind of like a fitness class and things like that for mental health. And she was reaching out and told her part of her homework was go find a bunch of cool people doing cool shit. That was like actually homework. It was like find a bunch of people that we'd want to collaborate with for this project. And she went hunting and hunting and hunting. She's like, I want you to meet Lauren. And I was like, perfect. You're in Bali. I'm in Bali. I looked on her Instagram. I'm like, oh, we'd be friends.
Yeah.
You know, like instantly messaged, yeah, we would be friends. And it was great to have you come down here to meet for the first time in Lighthouse, and for us to actually instantly click and pretty much
it's just meant to be. It's just mad.
I needed this
feel like God
counseling session.
Totally. Yeah, and the counseling session.
That's what I needed today. Thank you so much for today. Everybody, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you liked it, please give it a share. That's how we get to keep growing the show. Message me or Lauren. Let us know what you liked about it. We like to hear this stuff. It helps us.
Yeah,
it helps our fucking self-esteem for
and ego.
give us the ego validation and you know, and the other esteem that we really, really need. But also love to hear. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'll see you on the next episode. And good luck with your life. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.aaronbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by Lighthouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.